Hello and welcome to a new teacher training video presented to you by TEFL Academy. Let's say that you're teaching at a language school or at a K-12 school, normal school, and you wanted to examine your students. What are you going to do? Normally, teachers give their students a sheet of paper with prepared questions. Then they give them a mark for each correct answer, and then they calculate the score and give them a final mark. This is how traditional exams work. What if your exam includes a speaking and a writing section? How are you going to score those speaking and writing performances? How are you going to decide that this particular student deserves this particular mark or that particular student deserves that particular mark? What if one of the students comes to you and tells you, "Teacher, why did I get 10 out of 30? Why did I get 20 out of 30? Why did I get 50 out of 100? How are you going to justify the mark that you gave to that student? If you are giving random marks to the students and you are struggling to explain to them how they got those marks, this won't happen again if you understand how an assessment rubric works. So if you want to understand it and apply it, watch this video carefully. So what is an assessment rubric? Think of it as a table that contains a set of criteria that you're going to rely on when deciding which mark to give to each student. So it's a standard one. You use the same rubric for all your students. I will use this example in my explanation in order for it to be practical and in order for you to understand perfectly. The rubric you see here is a speaking rubric, which means it's a rubric that we use to assess speaking performances. You might be wondering, who makes those rubrics? The answer is simple. It's you, the teacher. I'll show you how to make it. First of all, you'll need to decide on the criteria you're going to refer to when examining your students. Here in this table, we have selected 5 criteria. The first one is completion of task. The second one is grammar accuracy. The third one is pronunciation. The fourth one is fluency, and the last one is effort. Of course, these are our own criteria. You can change them, you can modify them, it's up to you. It's up to you to decide what are the important elements that you need to judge in your students' speaking performance. And it doesn't have to be 5. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10. It's up to you. So after selecting the criteria, here we need to create descriptions within those criteria. We go from the description of the worst performance to the description of the best performance. For example, for completion of task, information provided was inadequate, which means the student didn't really complete the task. The second one, information provided was limited. It means it's better than the first one, but still not good enough. The third one, adequate information was provided. Here, let's say it's good, but it's not great. And the last one is extensive information provided, which means the student provided excellent information, even more than needed. So here, this is the best performance. As you can see, we went from worst to best. We have 4 descriptions. So for each of these descriptions, we have a standard score. So for the first one, we have 1. For the second one, we have 2. For the third description, we have 3 points. And for the last description, we have 4 points. So let's say that we have a student, he did his speaking activity, and we want to judge him on the completion of task, and his information was adequate. It was not limited, it was not inadequate, and it was not great. So here we give him 3 points. So far this student has scored 3 points. Now let's say that we want to judge the same student on grammar accuracy. He did his speaking. Now we want to judge his grammar accuracy. We have 4 descriptions here. We have multiple mistakes that take away meaning. We have frequent mistakes. We have some mistakes that blah, blah, blah. And we have very accurate, which means he didn't make any mistakes, or he made just a few mistakes that are not really that big of a deal. Let's say that this student, when he was doing his speaking activity, he did not make any mistakes. So what's the score that we should give him for grammar accuracy, in your opinion? If you said 4, it means you understood how a rubric works. So here we should give him 4 points. It's the best, or it's the mark or the point or the score for the best performance here. As you can see, we are always referring to the rubric when we give this student their mark, the mark that they deserve. And we are really fair because everything is written on the rubric. We are just observing and referring to the rubric. You see, it's very easy. So this student has secured 7 points so far. The 3 points for completion of task and 4 points for grammar accuracy. Let's say that this particular student, when he was speaking, his pronunciation was kind of difficult to understand. It wasn't bad, very bad, and it wasn't great, so it was difficult to understand. How many points do you think we should give him? If you said 2 points, it means now you really understand how a rubric works. So we give this student 2 points. So this student has secured or has scored how many points so far? So we have 3 plus 4 plus 2. So 7, so 9 points so far. Now we move on to fluency. Let's say that this student, when he was speaking, he just made occasional pauses. He did not stop all the time, and he did not frequently pause. It was just occasional from time to time. How many points do you think we should give him? He gets 3. So this student has 12 points so far. Now we have effort. Let's say that this student made good effort, not great effort, and not bad effort, or he didn't make any effort at all. He made good effort. So how many points does he get here? He gets 3. Alright, let's calculate his final mark. So we have 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3. And the total is 15 points. But 15 out of what? Is it 15 out of 100, 15 out of 50, 15 out of 20, out of 30? It's simple. You multiply the number of criteria by the best performance, the mark of the best performance. Here we have 5 criteria, and we have the best mark for each criterion is 4. So 5 by 4 equals 20. So the student we examined here got 15 out of 20. So how do you design a rubric? You define the criteria, whether you're going to put 4 or 5 or 6 criteria, and you decide on the best mark, or the out of what, what is the mark that is considered as the full mark. So it can be 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. It depends on how you're designing your whole exam, whether this is the whole exam or there are other parts of the exam like reading and listening, etc. And for the marks that you give for each description, they don't necessarily have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. They can be, for example, half a point, then 1 point, 1.5, 2, or they can be 2, 4, 6, 8. It depends on the number of criteria that you have and the maximum mark. Let's say if the maximum mark is 30 or 40 and you have just 3 criteria, of course you cannot use 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be more, because the total number of the best performances has to be that full mark. Now let's practice grading another student's performance using this same exact rubric. Let's say you have a second student who performed his speaking task. The information he provided was limited. He made a lot of mistakes, that you couldn't really understand the meaning of what he was saying. And when it comes to his pronunciation, it was somehow difficult to understand. And when he was talking, he was making frequent pauses, and you didn't really feel like this student was making efforts. So what's the mark that you think this student should have? So stop the video, use the rubric, define his mark. Then when you see the mark that I will give and you find out that it's the same mark, it means now you can perfectly use a rubric to grade your students. Now I'll give you a third student that you're going to assess using this rubric, but you're going to write the mark in the comment section, which means the mark that you gave to this student, you need to write it in the comment section, because I'm not going to give you the right mark or the one that I would give, and I'll see your mark in the comment section. So this student has provided you with great information that you were not expecting. He made some mistakes. They are considered as mistakes that do not really change the meaning, but they are still considered as important mistakes. His pronunciation was amazing compared to the other student. It was really, really good. He made just occasional pauses, not that much, occasional pauses from time to time. And you realize that he made great effort. You were impressed by his effort. So how much do you think you should give him? Write the mark in the comment section below and we will see. Dear teachers, TEFL TESOL trainees, I hope you found this video useful and that now you can design and use an assessment rubric to assess speaking and writing performances. See you in another video. Have a good one.